All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of our second annual SBIR STTR Con 2020. I'm Misty Madero, and I'm the Industry Contracts Officer and SBIR STTR Resource Center Manager at UC Riverside. I'd like to, as always, thank our sponsors, the SBA and the Orange County Inland Empire SBDC Network, and of course, Mike Daniel and Hannah Khalid for their support. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. Our conference is organized by UCR's EPIC SBDC, which offers individualized mentorship and access to capital to technology entrepreneurs at no cost. And here you'll see on the screen our SBIR STTR Resource Center can offer the following services to you, again at no cost, to help you submit winning proposals to the SBIR program. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Martin Kleckner, who is our entrepreneur in residence and expert in SBIR. So I'd like to take this time to turn it over to Martin.
Terrific. Thank you very much indeed, Misty, and I am indeed unmuted. That's a good sign. Good morning, everybody, again, and welcome to day 2. It's another busy, high-value day, and I'm excited that you're all here. Our first agency presentation is with the Department of Transportation, and they concentrate extensively on innovative solutions to the nation's transportation challenges. Any of us in the Southern California, LA area are probably aware that there are still a few transportation challenges that need resolution. So we're delighted to have Melissa here. DOT has funded, I think at least, Melissa, over 50 million in change, probably a heck of a lot more than that over the past 5 years in SBIR grants. And I think that's going to continue to move forward and grow. And the aim for the DOT, and you can correct anything that I indicate that may not be entirely correct, is that you're focusing on national transportation system issues, and you're looking for presentations or proposals from those in our audience who have strong capabilities in applied science and engineering and so forth. They need to demonstrate a strong approach to investigation of specific transportation-related tech, scientific, and engineering problems. I'm delighted to everybody to introduce Melissa Wong, who is Program Manager of the U.S. Department of Transportation's SBIR program, and she consults expressly on Intelligent Transportation Systems Joint Program Office, focusing on connected and automated vehicles, cybersecurity, privacy, environmental applications, and strategic planning. And I'd also like to say that Melissa is a fellow economist, just like yours truly, so she can't be all bad. So Melissa, delighted to have you. Welcome, and it's all yours.
Great, thanks so much. I'm gonna start sharing my screen in just 1 second. The button that I was supposed to use is gone. There we go. No. Share screen. Here's my button. All right. Okay. So, thank you very much, everybody, for joining me here this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you're at. And I'm going to talk to you today about the US DOT's SBIR program. And I'm going to actually slideshow this from the beginning. Here we go. Here we go. Hopefully this will go without a glitch from here on out. So I represent the US DOT's Small Business Innovation Research Program. I'm the SBIR Program Manager for the US DOT, and I've served in that role for about 7 or 8 years now. It's only one of the hats I wear at US DOT. As Martin referenced earlier, I spend a lot of my time supporting the ITS-JPO, which is the Intelligent Transportation Systems Joint Program Office. and we focus on connected and automated vehicles and intelligent transportation systems. However, the SBIR program is much broader than that. It represents all of the US DOT modes of transportation, which I'll go into in a minute. So I'm here today with my SBIR program manager hat on, and I'll talk to you about the US DOT's program overall. So the mission of the US DOT is fairly broad, and it's to ensure a fast, safe, efficient, accessible, and convenient transportation system that meets vital national interests and enhances the quality of life of the American people. The US DOT's mission is broad because the area of transportation is broad. Transportation touches all aspects of our lives and all aspects of economic activity and all aspects of technology. So the US DOT's SBIR program, therefore, is rather broad in its topic areas as well. The SBIR program addresses the high priority research gap within the DOT's existing research and development program. And our SBIR topics are developed by each mode of transportation to align with the Secretary of Transportation's strategic priorities, as well as specific modal priorities and SBAA. So, the US DOT is made up of 11 operating administrations, I believe, 8 of which participate in the US DOT's SBIR program. Those administrations roughly align with modes of transportation. So there's the Federal Aviation Administration, and you might be interested to know that the FAA is actually exempt from participating in the program, but does participate occasionally at their discretion. The Federal Highway Administration, and as well as the ITS JPO, which I referenced earlier, participates quite regularly and one is the largest funder within US DOT. The Federal Rail Administration, the Federal Transit Administration, which is buses and rapid transit. Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration is the operating administration that regulates the trucking industry. NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, is in charge of vehicle safety. They're most known for traffic safety and crash test dummy testing and the like. The Office of the Secretary is the Office of the Secretary of Transportation and coordinates research across the operating administrations. And then some folks are surprised to find out the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration is within the US DOT because pipelines are considered a mode of transportation. So not every operating administration or mode, I'll call them for shorthand, participates in every solicitation. So here are some details about the DOT's SBIR program. I'm sure you've learned about other SBIR programs, and we're actually one of the smaller programs. Our annual SBIR budget is only about $9 million. It can be anywhere from $8 to $11 million on any given year. We only do about 5 to 10 topics per year. Last year was a larger year for us. We had 12 topics in FY20. Our phase one, we do one phase one solicitation a year, and those awards are for up to $150,000 for the 6-month phase one effort. The phase two efforts, upon successful completion of the phase one, can be anywhere from $200,000 to $1 million, and that's generally a 1 to 2 year effort. And then we do have a phase 2B program, and that is if it's warranted, invitations will be sent to select phase 2 awardees upon their successful completion and have them submit a phase 2B proposal. So the number of awards per year varies greatly, and they're based on the number of solicitation topics. So last year we had 12 topics, and I think we did 17 phase 1 awards. In general, about half of our phase 1 awardees go on to phase 2, and from there, about a quarter of those phase 2s go on to phase 2Bs. As I mentioned, we only do one solicitation a year. Our next solicitation is expected in the winter of 2020, 2021, probably January, February timeframe. We don't have a date yet. That is TBD, and will depend on a number of variables. As I'm sure you're all aware, it's an unusual year. In order to be apprised of when we're going to open our solicitation, I would advise you go to our website, and we'll have that URL at the end of the presentation, or you can just Google SBIR DOT. And on that front page of that website, you can sign up to receive alerts, and that's the best way to keep abreast of our program. Other details you'll want to be aware of: we administer contracts and not grants. And for those of you familiar with the SBIR program, the fact that we administer contracts means our topics, our areas of interest, our research projects tend to be more narrowly defined and prescriptive than some of the other granting programs. So we're looking for an actual outcome, an actual solution. So different from some of the granting programs, we present the problem in the solicitation, and then you submit a proposal that presents the solution. Also, multiple majority VC firms are not eligible to participate in the DOT's program. And we do not accept unsolicited proposals. This means if you have a great idea, you cannot submit a proposal on that idea unless it is part of our solicitation. You can submit ideas that may or may not be included in a future solicitation on our website. We just ask you to submit, say, a paragraph description of what you think a great idea or a problem in transportation that could be solved is, and then we'll float it around to the various modes of transportation and see if it aligns with their priorities. This in no way guarantees that your topic will ever show up in a forthcoming solicitation, but it is a way to get your ideas out there to folks that may be interested. Okay, last year we started, USDOT sponsored its first pitch day. Some of you may be familiar with this concept. It's actually fairly common in the private sector, although less common in government contracting. But we did have our first successful pitch day. It was in April of last year. So we had our traditional solicitation. We received proposals via our traditional submit a proposal via our website. And then from there, we down selected those proposals to folks for phase one pitch day. And those folks were invited to participate in what ended up being a virtual pitch day. We had envisioned it being in person initially, but then of course, events overtook us. But we did have a successful virtual pitch day and Q&A session with the small businesses who were down selected. And we had them do a 15-minute pitch to the evaluation panel of technical experts. And then from there, those projects were chosen from those pitches to actually be recommended for award and then receive a contract from the USDOT. So that was an exciting innovation for us. It's been done in other programs, so we hadn't done it yet. And we do anticipate continuing that pitch day for fiscal year 2021, although nothing's set in stone yet. That is our plan at the moment. In addition, for phase two proposals at the end of your phase one, if you are selected for phase one and you do want to submit a phase two proposal, we have a pre-proposal phone call near the end of the phase one project so that you, as the small business, can ask the technical expert, the SMEs, what we call CORs, contracting officer representatives in DOT, what they're looking for and how to submit a better proposal that best fits their needs and interests. Our solicitation process is a lot like other federal agency solicitation process. You can go to our website here and you can view the solicitation once it's open. You can also view that solicitation on beta.sam.gov. And then that will take you to a portal where you can submit your proposal. Generally, our solicitation is open for a month to 6 weeks on the timeline that's determined later this fall. And so what happens is we announce this solicitation. You go look at the solicitation, you read the topics, you decide if you want to submit a proposal, and then you have about 6 weeks to prepare your proposal. You can also submit requests for clarifications or questions on each of the research topics. There's a shorter window for that. It's been, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks last year, where you get to submit questions, and those go to the authors or SMEs or technical experts, and they'll respond to your questions so that you're submitting a proposal with the best information, and you can clarify any issues you may be having. And then again, you have to submit your proposals via a secured website, and then we take anywhere from a month to 6 weeks to evaluate the proposals. And then if things go as planned, we'll be down selecting for a pitch day again. That will happen maybe in the later spring time period this year. So some tips for phase 1 offer submission. So it's really important that you read the entire solicitation and follow the instructions. They're quite detailed. It's generally about a 40-page solicitation, and we know it's arduous, but we don't like to have to disqualify any folks for not following the directions or not including something that was required or some such thing. So we think it's very important that you read the entire solicitation. You'll focus most of your efforts on the technical proposal, of course, and that is the solicitation will tell you definitively, but I think it was a 15-page proposal last time. We anticipate something similar this time. You can follow. Also, once you read the topic, follow the directions for submitting your questions. And your questions have to be clarifications, not is this the right answer? Is this a good proposal? Is this, does this technology match your needs? You have to clarify the existing information. You also have to check to make sure you've completed the appendices that we require, and that information will be laid out very explicitly in the solicitation. And then double check all your cost figures and calculations that you're submitting as part of your cost proposal. And this is really important when it comes down to getting your contract awarded on time. The less clarifying questions the contracting officers have to go back and forth with you, the fewer questions the evaluation team have, the easier the process is going to be. And then you also have to remember to sign Appendix A, and that's just testifying that this is all true and that you're submitting the proposal officially. So things you should not do, the do nots. Don't send your offer to us via email. We won't accept it via email. Don't submit more than one offer. Don't submit duplicate offers to different programs. There is a section where you fill out if you are submitting a duplicate offer, you have to say, okay, well, I also submitted this offer to NSF. That rarely happens with us because NSF is so broad and we're so prescriptive, but again, it's important that you declare if that is in fact what you're doing. Don't ask us for guidance on whether or not your company should submit an offer. We can't provide you with guidance. We can only provide you with clarifications. Don't create arbitrary overhead, indirect, or profit and fee rates. You're going to have to defend every number in your cost proposal, so have a clear reason behind it. And there's actually a part of the cost proposal that asks you to, you know, in plain language, describe any of the numbers that you think warrant explanation. And don't wait until the deadline to submit your offer. We really try to emphasize this. Problems happen, errors occur. We're really bound by the FAR, by our contracting officers. We cannot accept late proposals. So if you're getting this in at the deadline and something goes wrong and it doesn't get into our system, our hands are basically tied. We really advocate doing this, you know, 24 hours in advance, what have you. Work out all the kinks in advance, so you're not shut out of the selection process. Also, for you to be aware of, the US DOT does have a TABA program, a Technical and Business Assistance Programs, and this is additional support for awardees to focus on increasing commercialization of the phase 1, phase 2, and projects that are supported by US DOT. We do have a TABA vendor, and that is Foresight Science and Technology for both phase 1 and phase 2. As you're probably aware, you can propose your own vendor to use for the TABA program. However, you will have to provide additional documentation for that if you do choose your own vendor. Or you can choose not to participate in the program. We fund TABA at $6,500 for phase 1 and $13,000 for phase 2, and it's a variety of commercialization assistance that's available to you, and you'll be given more information on that once you're recommended for award, what the program actually entails. So USDOT's SBIR topics. I think one of the best ways you can get a sense of what type of research the USDOT is looking for is going to look at our past solicitations, and they're all available on our website, at least I think the past 10 years are. But it's a huge variety of things. It's materials science, it's sensors, it's ITS, it's modeling, it's energy issues, it's infrastructure, it's a huge variety of things that the US DOT is interested in, because there's a huge variety of modes of transportation, there's a huge variety of technologies involved. So we do have a lot of variety in our topics. And here's just an example of some of the successful SBIR projects we've had. I just tried to provide a variety here. A recent one was on easy access to freight locomotives. The problem here is that, oops, page up. So freight locomotives are dangerous vehicles. They're huge and they're hard to get on and off of, and there was a lot of injuries for rail yard workers. Company GS Engineering proposed a solution to make it easier and safer for rail yard workers to get on and off freight locomotives. When they went and did the market research for this, they actually found that all of the rail yard workers, I should not laugh, reported slipping and falling and having some sort of injury getting on and off a freight locomotive. So this is something that's really enabled rail yard workers to more easily get on and off the locomotives. And it's designed as a retrofit to existing freight locomotives. And it's a ladder that comes up and down and can be put on existing freight locomotives. Another successful project was the SBIR thermal stair, and this has to do with a lot of what USDOT does, and that is assessment of the infrastructure the bridges, the roads, the tunnels, the pipelines. These things have to be inspected for safety reasons, and most of this has been done traditionally on site and not as effective because you cannot see all of the stress and issues you might have with any given material. So Fuchs Consulting developed a condition assessment solution using infrared technology that's been very successful across a number of different modes of transportation. Here you see it inspecting a flight deck on an aircraft carrier. So it uses infrared sensors to see if there's additional stresses on the concrete, on the steel, on a variety of materials. And then one final one from FMCSA. And this has to do with a sensor, a receiver, and a receptor communicating VIN numbers from the actual truck to the cargo, so that freight companies can more easily identify what freight is where, and this opens up a whole new world of remote sensing and tracking of freight. So those are just the kind of projects that USDOT has. I like to say also that there's a lot of other ways to do business with the USDOT. As most of you know, the DOT is only 3% of all, SBIR is only 3% of all the research dollars within any given agency. So 90% of the research dollars are through other programs. Here are some ways you can get more information and learn more about the USDOT and their programs. We, of course, have an Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization, the OSDBU. You can contact them. beta.sam.gov is a great way to look up research by topic. We also have the University Transportation Centers across the country that focus on various types of research within the transportation sector. TRB.org is part of the National Academies, and it's where industry, government, and academics come together to try and solve research problems. There's also challenge.gov, which has a series of different types of government challenges that you can look through to see if there's any that are of interest to you. And then each of our agencies within the DOT has their own website that details their own BAAs, RFIs, and other research into opportunities within, say, FAA or FHWA or FRA. So there's lots of different ways you can look up what type of research the USDOT is doing and how you might be able to connect with that. Here's our contact information. That's our website. We have a hotline. I answer the hotline, or there's one other woman who answers the hotline. We're a small program in a small office. So if you have any questions, feel free to call. We'll gladly answer the phone and help you through the process or answer any specific questions you may have. Well, and that's it. I'll gladly turn it back to Martin and open up for questions if anyone has any.
Melissa, thank you very much indeed. Very informative. So everyone, now is your chance to put in the chat box any questions that you'll have, and we are, for the most part, going to be just reading your questions back to Melissa. For mostly efficiency purposes and so forth, but if the crickets start chirping, we may also open it up for interaction as well. But I wanted to ask one question before we kick it off with people who are asking questions, and I wanted to make certain that we all understood the pitch process, because it seems, Melissa, that the pitch process It might be a distinguishing characteristic for you folks at the Department of Transportation, not entirely certain. So is the pit, given that you do contracts, not grants, is the pitch expressly available only to those who are, and I'm sure I don't have this understood correctly, so forgive me, is the pitch for those who have completed their, or soon to be completing their deliverables for phase one? Do they then get an invitation to pitch to you?
No,
in order to submit for phase two, or what am I not understanding here?
So perhaps I wasn't clear. The pitch process is part of the phase one solicitation process.
Okay.
So we'll open a solicitation, say in the January, February timeframe. Then we will evaluate, say we get, say that for math's sake, we have 10 topics, we get 50 proposals on each topic. We'll down select those 50 proposals from each topic to say 5 proposals from that topic. We'll invite those 5 people to pitch day. So all 50 proposers won't get invited to pitch day. We'll down select to the 5 most relevant and promising proposals, invite those folks to pitch day, and then they'll participate in the pitch process.
Aha.
Is that clearer?
Okay. It is to me, yes. I'm usually the slowest one here in the group to get it, but that makes a heck of a lot of sense. So thanks, Melissa, very much. A second question has to do with the TABA program. I think many of us are familiar with Foresight Science and Technology for NIH awardees. Is your TABA with the folks from Foresight, is that for pre-award those who are preparing a proposal, or is that for those who have been awarded a phase one proposal?
Who have been awarded.
Okay.
So say you make a proposal to solve a problem having to do with water runoff on highways. And the amount of that proposal is $150,000. That proposal comes in, and then we say, wonderful, great proposal. You're recommended for award. We'll then contact you and say, okay, do you want to participate in our TABA program? Here are your choices. Use Foresight and get an additional $6,500 worth of support for commercialization purposes. Find your own vendor. If you want to do that, you're going to have to submit some more information to us and why this is a good vendor and who they are and what have you, or not participate in the program at all and just go and go it on your own and do the research, come up with the the solution, but you don't want the commercialization assistance.
Got it.
So it's once you're selected for award.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. So that falls in line with pretty much the other Foresight offerings as well for the other agencies. So why don't I quit hogging everything with my own questions, and let's start with Amit Sharma. And Amit was asking Melissa if you folks, is there anything related to energy and water conversation that might be of interest to the DOT?
So we have had topics energy related in the past, and we have had environmental topics. I think I referenced one of having to do with runoff, how to mitigate the pollutants in runoff kind of thing from a road. However, that is not the core of what the US DOT generally does. Our mission is safety. The energy aspect of things is normally a vehicle specific issue or a DOE issue, right? So if it has to do with energy infrastructure, charging stations, things like that, that tends to be more DOE's bailiwick than DOT's. Right. But that said, there are we had something about the disposal of lithium ion batteries recently, and how to recycle those. So there are tangential topics sometimes they come up. It's not the core of what we do. That tends to be more DOE or EPA. But we do, again, transportation tends to intersect every aspect of society. So these things do come up.
Great. And Kieran, hey, welcome. Glad to see you joined us today. And so Kieran, Melissa has a question with regard to a venture initiative that he's been working on for quite some time, and it pertains to GIS. Is GIS an area that the DOT, it almost follows in line with the prior question, is that a topic that may or may not have a possible fit within your aims?
Yeah, GIS comes up a lot in mapping technologies. So for automated and connected vehicles to work, there has to be a significant mapping effort, right? So that
right,
hand in glove with GIS. There's also, I'm not a technical expert at all, so I might mess up some technical stuff. But SPATs, positioning and timing, basically, is another thing that has a significant impact on connected and automated vehicle technologies, the ability to sense where a car is at in relation to all the other cars and what have you, or vehicles or infrastructure. So yes, GIS is sort of at the core of intelligent transportation systems. So a pure GIS topic, maybe not, but again, tangentially, mapping is key to successful rollout of connected and automated vehicles.
Got it. Thanks, Melissa. And Naveed, you were asking a question about minimum and maximum size requirements. For you, Naveed, and for everybody else, a lot of these questions you can have answered in two ways, sbir.gov. So if you're not familiar with that, to access sbir.gov, and they have a section called FAQ, Frequently Asked Questions, and they cover a myriad of topics, including eligibility. So Naveed, that would be an area to look at. Also, Misty, maybe you can provide us with the link that we have at UC Riverside. We are building a pretty sizable program of all prior workshops, slide decks, and other material that answers all of these questions and then some. So maybe, Misty, I don't know if you recall offhand what our link is, or maybe we can put it on chat, but we would encourage everybody to tap into the UC Riverside SBIR Resource Center site. So a lot of these eligibility and other types of questions are answered there.
I'll put it in the chat.
Terrific. So Silva, your question is, we'd like to sell hand sanitizers and hand wash products to the DOT. I think that's a different topic. They want to be, I take it, Silva, you want to be a vendor to the DOT? I'm not entirely certain. That sounds like it may not prospectively be an SBIR contract, or maybe I'm
that wouldn't fall under the SBIR program. You'd have to go to, I think you'd probably go to beta.sam.gov and look up those types of opportunities.
Right. I should offer also, Silva, that the Orange County Inland Empire SBDC network has several experts with regard to developing contractor status with the federal government. That might be an area that you may want to look into. So if that is of possible interest to you, if you are not already a registered contractor to sell to the federal government, reach out to either Misty or yours truly here, and we'll put you in the right direction. So Naveed has another question, and it follows Melissa somewhat in part to what I was asking about Foresight and their technology niche assessment product and so forth. He was indicating that the DOE, and you're probably well familiar with the program, the Phase Zero program by Dawnbreaker, I believe, that runs that. Naveed was wondering whether you had a Phase Zero type program, given that you'd indicated that the TNA by Foresight, or what Foresight does for your awardees, wondering if you had an applicant assistant program.
We I think I didn't hear the last part of what you were saying, Martin, but no, we do not. We're a very small program in relation to the other, basically Big Five, and we don't have the resources for that. But DOE does have that, and I think their assistance is somewhat applicable in terms of how to submit a proposal, types of things to do. So their online resources are generally somewhat transferable in terms of, you know, how to be a better SBIR applicant.
Sure, absolutely. And Sova, you had a second question. I would suggest you wanted just simply to access the DOT SBIR website, and you're perfectly welcome to do that. I think all you need to do, Silva, is Google DOT SBIR or dotsbir.gov or something close to that, Melissa. I don't recall offhand. In other words, your website, your website, Melissa, answers a lot of these questions. So I would encourage everyone, and in particular, before you even reach out to Melissa or any of her colleagues, I highly, highly encourage you to access the website first, carefully read everything there, carefully go through everything that Melissa has already advised that we should take a look at before we reach out to her or anybody else. So Amit, you have another question or a comment about providing cloud and mobile platform digital transformation. Don't know whether that's in a form of a declarative statement or whether it is a question, but I'll try to flip it into a question. Do you, through the SBIR program, Melissa, do you look into cloud and mobile platform digital transformation for resolution of any transportation system issues?
For anything topic related, I would advise going and looking what our previous topics have been. And also, I can't really discuss the topic until they come out. So I don't know what specific topics will be in this solicitation. What he's mentioning here is their capabilities seem to align with what DOT looks for, but again, I can't really say as to whether or not it'd be applicable. What you have to do is wait for the solicitation. When the solicitation comes out, you read the topics and you decide whether or not your capabilities can address any of the research topics that we have.
Sure. Yeah, so this is a reminder to everybody is that the DOT is a contract rather than a grant agency.
Right.
Am I fair to say? And that's 100% your contract, not grant.
Yes.
So Amit, the questions that you're asking in terms of what your capabilities and your specialties are and so forth, I think the best bet is just to get online the DOT website and see if they are looking for solutions that you may prospectively be a fit. So that would be my recommendation for that, Amit. Wayne has a question. Is there a need for sneeze guard shields to slow down the spread of COVID-19? Sneeze. Some of these questions, I think I'll probably just pass by some of these, Wayne. This does not look like it's a DOT issue. So with highest respect, I think we'll just move on to this one. Let me think. As a provider doing DOT exams, is there a contract for clinics and providers who perform such exams? A lot of you are asking, I believe, not SBIR questions, but you're asking for contractor status to I believe, be a vendor to the DOT. I may be misunderstanding that, but maybe Sheila, you can clarify what your question is here. I think, why don't you see if you can clarify that question just a little bit, and we'll hopefully have a chance to come back and see you here. There's another one. Milan is asking patented high efficiency, low carbon dioxide, fuel agnostic, zero emissions engine technology. I remember that question from yesterday, Milan. Okay, so is this a DOT interest area, or would this might be EPA or some other
Yeah, I think
instead
it's
of
going to
that?
be more EPA or DOE. That said, every once in a while we do have a battery or fuel related topic, but this does to me seem like it's more DOE or EPA.
So the follow-up question is that anything in the future that might have any relationship to fuel efficiencies of any sort that might
So
prospectively be or Milan might be a fit?
there is, again, tangentially, like for instance, the US DOT developed the CAFE standards, right?
Yep.
We didn't dictate what technologies are used to achieve those CAFE standards, right? What mix of technologies auto manufacturers use to achieve those. That's really an auto manufacturer question, and we are sort of,
Right.
there's kind of a hard line in between what they develop for their own use, and then we, as DOT, as a regulator, set the standards, right? So we don't do research into the actual technology. We would do research into what is the optimal CAFE standard.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed for that, Melissa. And Paulo, remember you from yesterday as well. Welcome back. I'm glad you joined us. And so Paulo was asking Chris O'Gwyn, I believe yesterday with the DOE, Melissa, about a sensor that he is working on or has developed, monitors body heat and temperature, air quality, buses, shuttles, and so forth. And disposable seat dividers, biodegradable, that is to say. Is that topic or those types of innovations, is that something that the DOT may pay attention to, or may Paulo, or should he maybe go to explore other agencies in lieu of the DOT?
I mean, I can see where it would be a possibility. FTA might be interested in something like that, Federal Transit or Federal Rail, or even FAA. But I can't comment on what might be a topic in the next solicitation until it's
Sure.
announced, and that won't be till January.
Sure.
But I can see where something like that might come up eventually.
Yep.
Or may not.
Sure. Either way, I get it. Melissa, I think if I remember correctly, you had mentioned that there may be an opportunity to engage you and your colleagues with regard to maybe seeking whether or not you may become interested in a topic that may eventually down the road, if you are indeed intrigued about it and I'm interested to maybe create a solicitation for that. My reason for asking is Milan has tapped into your website, and he found that you do allow for submittal of topics, and I believe you had mentioned something about that, where
Right,
maybe
so
people may reach out to you with ideas.
Yeah, he or she can submit that topic on our website, and then we put it in a list of topics and we circulate that around to folks who participate in the SBIR program. That said, it has to align with their research priorities. They're not just going to say, oh, great, this is a great idea. It has to be it has to come from both sides, right? And then if they did say this was a great idea, then it would of course be in a solicitation and open to all to submit a proposal.
Okay, so thanks, Melissa. Paulo and Wayne and Milan, you are all asking, all of your questions are, is this topic of interest? Is that topic of interest, and so forth. Melissa, for these types of questions, can they reach out to you by way of email, or the one area that I think we just finished talking about, is there a place on the website where they can just simply send an email to see whether or not?
Sure. They can send an email. It's right there, dotsbir@dot.gov. In general, the answer to that question is possibly, but they're not going to know the real answer to that question until the solicitation is published, right?
Got it. Right.
The answer to all these questions is probably possibly. It could
Sure.
be. I don't know. But the real answer to that question is going to be answered when we publish the solicitation topics, and that will be in the January-February timeframe. So I advise them all to just go to our website, sign up to get alerts so that they're aware the second the topics are published, okay, yes, DOT through their SBIR program wants to address this. Great, I'm going to submit a proposal. Or no, DOT SBIR program doesn't want to address this. I'm going to look for other ways to do this research.
Terrific. I had another question, Melissa. You had mentioned beta.sam.gov. Most of us who have gone through registration are familiar with that bugaboo that we have to go through now. And most of us are aware of why that has happened, and we know that sam.gov is making some additional changes effective January. But is the beta.sam.gov that you're referencing, is that the same thing as the sam.gov that we use for registration, or is it something different?
Yeah, it's just a new rollout of the sam.gov. Got
it. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions that they would like to ask Melissa? Time's running out. We're close to about 5 or 9 minutes and so forth. And well, you know, maybe just some overall general stuff for all of us, especially those of us who may not have submitted a proposal before. And so a lot of this may be a little bit mysterious for us. Are there anything, when you evaluate proposals and you determine whether or not it is worthy of a pitch, are there things that we need to be aware of that may enable us to stand a better chance of winning the day with you? And conversely, are there things that we should most definitely consider not doing in order to get us on the wrong side of you?
No, I mean, I'm generally not a technical evaluator. They're folks with 20 years background in concrete that are evaluating the concrete proposals. There are folks with a PhD in sensor technologies that are evaluating the sensor proposals, of course. So what we want is a proposal that addresses the topic and proposes a reasonable solution. So it doesn't have to be the most innovative. It has to be the most, it has to be the most practical. It has to be the most reasonable. It has to be the most well thought out. It has to be the most, well defended proposal. So concentrating on the basics is really important.
Sure. How important is the commercialization plan?
That doesn't come in until phase 2. So it's not a factor in phase 1. Commercialization potential is in phase 1, but commercialization plan is in phase 2. Okay. And then it becomes important.
Great. And a question that I had, and perhaps a few others as well, is that given that you folks focus on contracts, again, rather than grants, is it internal DOT VOLP staff that evaluates the proposals and by extension the pitches, or do you bring in those who are outside of DOT as well to help you evaluate proposals?
Volpe's employed a little sliver of the T, and we coordinate the program on behalf of all of the operating administrations. So the folks who are evaluating it will be technical experts within DOT, federal staff within DOT.
Great. And I have one last question, and then for humanitarian and logistics reasons, Misty, I think we need to pull the plug and move on and allow Melissa to get ready for her one-on-one meetings and so forth. But Paulo had an interesting question that I don't have an answer to. And Paulo was asking, if we already registered for sam.gov, do we need to register as well with beta.sam.gov, or is that taken care of?
That is a great question, Paul, and I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry.
No worries, Melissa.
Probably have that answer on beta.sam.gov.
Yeah, Paulo and everybody else, due to some hiccups